everybody, to yet another Sick Podcast brought to you by or Blue Jay Center podcast brought to you by the Sick Podcast Network. See what happens when I have like a couple weeks off, boys. Completely bomb it right away. But boys, I'm jacked up. I know you are. Back-to-back sweeps for the fellas. Lots of wins, lots of positivity, which is night and day from what we were talking about this time last year. Fellas, I'm just tickled pink and excited to talk about it. So let's get going.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Blue Jays Center.
Bautista drives it deep left field. Gone!
The sickest Toronto Blue Jays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
What's up, guys? I'm James Price along with Rob Pentillamon and Cole Whiston. And boys, we got some positive talk today. Last time you guys talked to them, that was after the game. It was after game 2 of the Yankees series. Vibes Immaculate. You beat Rodon. You beat Max Fried. Who'd have thunk it? They would have been like, here's 5 more wins. As the Jays have now won 8 straight. Back-to-back sweeps for the fellas. And just like that, 3 games up on the Yankees, 3 games up on the Rays, sweeping the Angels, as Rob mentioned in the chat, winning the season series now over the Angels, which could be important down the road. Boys, how the hell we doing today?
Oh, incredible, man. Incredible. After that Canada Day sweep against the Yankees, obviously we were on top, man. We had that show with Cole. We were talking about potentially being in first place for the first time in the history of this program. And now, not only are we in first place, we got a little bit of breathing room between us and the other couple teams there. And guys, I mean, I hate to be this guy, but even though we've won 8 in a row, you look at the schedule ahead and you're like, we've put ourselves in pretty good position for the division lead. We could potentially put ourselves in even better position heading into the All-Star break next week. Obviously, getting a little ahead of ourselves. We're playing the White Sox tomorrow. We all know what happened the last time we played the White Sox, so definitely want to be a little bit modest, but I'm definitely giddy going into this last road trip. The vibes, like I said, like you said, James, are immaculate. The team is bussing, and we're awesome. We're doing awesome right now.
Yeah, we said on the last show that if we could complete the series win or the series sweep of the Yankees, that we set ourselves up significantly better for the rest of July. We're about to have our easiest schedule in terms of strength of schedule in this month, and it's knock on wood, and it's time for the Jays to prove it. But we talked in the last show about how great is it going to be if we win this division. I think because of this July schedule, all eyes should be set on being a top 2 division team. I mean, obviously that's the only place to go from here. But what I am saying is that all of a sudden it's a lot more catchable because of your schedule in July. All of a sudden at the end of this month, we could be talking about, we're 1 game ahead of the Tigers. We're 1 game back of the Astros. And all of a sudden, then you have August and September to go for a bye in the postseason.
It's exciting stuff, fellas, isn't it? Okay, so there. You know what?
Here's the thing. So Rob said for the first time in the history of the Sick Podcast Blue Jay Center Network, we have not been in first place, and that is correct. But also for the first time, and I think maybe even Blue Jay Center post-game shows history, we haven't ever felt like the team at all times has been clicking on all cylinders. And right now, over this 8 games, I mean, obviously when you win 8 games, there's not a whole lot that's going to be clicking wrong. Yeah. But it feels like everything is clicking right. I mean, when you have guys making their MLB debut, Lazar Estrada going 4 innings of shutout baseball when we absolutely needed it, and then he accomplishing that, and then you send Braden Fisher out for 2 extra innings. Like, every button we click has worked, and that, I think, is the first time in the Blue Jays Center post-game show history.
I think
go ahead, Pricey.
Well, I think it was last time I was on. I can't remember who asked the question about, is this real? Do you believe in this? I can't remember who asked the question. And I said yes, just because it doesn't seem like it's just one guy carrying the load. Not like the New York Yankees, where there's one guy you're scared of. And John Schneider made that very clear, and you sweep the series making that happen. It's beautiful to see.
Right.
And you just reamed off some names, Cole. That's the reason why.
Yeah.
Who that in their right mind expected Lazaro Estrada to go out there and pitch 4 innings, but not like, this guy pitched the first inning and he pitches innings 2, 3, 4, 5. No. He's going out there for inning 4 in the 9th inning of a tie ball game.
Yeah.
All in leverage.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane who's doing what. Joey Loperfido comes up. Here's an RBI single today. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Here you go. Done.
Yeah, literally, at this bottom of the lineup, literally a month ago, we would have been like punt day.
David Schneider was dead for so long, you know, and now he's come up with 3-0 green light RBI singles to win you a ball game today.
Yeah,
It's crazy, man. This sport.
and obviously,
I think-
obviously, this suggests some regression to the means,
Sure.
and that's going to happen, of course. But the thing is that there's also big key players that aren't producing at their level. So it's like it could all average out to be the exact same. You know, another 5-game win streak here, and you lose 1 or 2 there, and then another 5-game. Like that's what it feels like the rest of this, at least the rest of this month's going to be. It'll feel like it'll be, you know, you win 5 games and you might lose 2, and then you'll win 5 more games. Like that's what I predict to happen the rest of this month.
I think the most impressive part about all this is that they're doing this all, and I mean, I guess it could be impressive. It could also not be impressive if you're asking Michael K. But they're winning all these one-run games. These are these close games where they're not completely blowing teams out. And I think, to me, like this is the longest Blue Jays win streak we've had. I think since 2015. I think they won 11 in a row twice that year, something like that. And I think to me, like what's been the real thing of realization, the point of realization for me is that it's really hard to win games consistently when you're constantly pitching in leverage like the Blue Jays have. And it's not because of the obvious. Like, yeah, it's one-run games, coin flip games that can go either way, but it's also pitching a leverage game. All of a sudden, now you're depleted the next day. Your bullpen's depleted the next day. You need those guys to step up. Now those guys, the third day, you got Jeff Hoffman pitching 4 times in 6 days, Brennan Little pitching 3 times in 4 days, you know, Chad Green pitching back-to-back days. And it's like you just need these guys to come up and step up for you. You look at, you guys mentioned Lazardo Estrada yesterday in his big league debut, pitching 4, I mean, he gave up a run, but 4 mostly clean innings of leverage that helped them win. But you also had Braden Fisher come in and give you 2 clean innings with the Manfred man on second base, and you got, you know, out both those times escapes scot-free. You have obviously today Ryan Bird just getting reinstated from the IL. He had a big inning in the 7th, pitching right to the heart of the Angels' order and retiring them, striking out the side. Chad Green, a guy who we all thought was dead, had massive outings both against the Yankees and the Angels on Friday night to preserve that. To keep the game tied, and then we ended up walking it off with the error by like the Ernie Clement bunt, but. It's just so many guys stepping up in this bullpen. It's so nice to see. Unfortunately, the one bad part is that Jimmy Garcia, who came back for 1 game and got injured, he stepped on. I think he tripped in the hot tub. He slipped in the hot tub.
Yeah, he slipped in the hot tub, which it was funny because Rob sent it to the chat. He's like, "We need to check on the Blue Jays training staff because it happened last year with Jordan Romano and it happened this year with Jimmy Garcia. But at least Jimmy Garcia wasn't like, we brought him back too early and then we made him pitch 35 pitches in his outing back." And that's what I thought was going to be the case. Like, you blew him in your first game back, but. No, he slips in the hot tub, which is significantly funnier, but also significantly, makes me more angry.
and here's the thing, too, is that baseball is obviously a cyclical game in the sense of we all know you're never going to be as good as you are when you're peaking. Obviously, you can go on a run, you can win 15 of 20 and look amazing, but you could also subsequently, lose 14 of 20. Then after that and look very mediocre. It's how do you win when you're at your consistent average pace? And right now, you look at this past series against the Angels. I didn't look at that last series against the Angels and to be like, this is just like a world-beating Blue Jays team that's red hot. No. The offense really struggled against some pretty subpar Angels pitching. I mean, they really couldn't have a big inning. They barely squeaked by these games. It was kind of like pulling teeth. But and here's the thing: if they would have swept this series in April, we would have been like, they just ended up squeaking out a win against a bad team. But because we're on this run that we are, we're like, finding ways to win. Gritty Jays. We love that. Well, but that's true because ultimately, if you can pull out these wins when you're not playing your best and still beating good teams, I think that's a mark of a good team, for real.
Here, you mentioned it. When was the last time we saw this team go on an 8-game winning streak? And is that coincidental that was also the last time that we won a playoff game? I don't think so. Teams that can't pull off a streak like this in the regular season, I don't care how many games you win in the regular season, if it's 90-91 like the 2021 team did, they also probably didn't have an 8-game winning streak, or if they did, it was probably capped at 8 or 9. And that's kind of the point that we're trying to make.
They looked pretty dominant that second half, though, Prof. They looked pretty dominant when they came back to Canada.
I know, but what if you can't do that? Then there is an element of untrustability in the postseason, because if you can't get 8 straight wins in the regular season, then how are you supposed to pull off a couple when you're down 2-0 in the ALDS?
Well, that's the whole point of crappy teams can go on runs too. And I bring it to, I mean, Cole, you're a hockey guy too. So the Buffalo Sabres are prime example. They've been pathetic for so many years. There's been a couple times, like each season, where they go on like an 8-game win streak, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Buffalo's finally back!" And you're like, "Just wait, hold on." They lose 7 in a row after that, and that's a sign of a bad team. Now, for me, I love the win streak. Hey, it's fun winning 8 in a row, 9-1 your last 10, sweeping the Yankees in a 4-game series for the first time ever in Toronto, which is crazy. What do they do after a loss? What do they do after a series loss? Do they bounce back and win another series or go on another 4-game win streak or something like that? Or do they lose 6, 7, 8 in a row, and that will show a telltale sign? But I think this sample is big enough over like we got to be a month and a half, 2 months.
We did it. We lost to the White Sox. We lost to the worst team in the league.
Well, that's another that's a great point.
And then we came back and got 2 series.
1, 2, or 3 against the Guardians, I think, right away. And then you won the 2 or 3 in Boston. Then you come home, sweep the Yankees, and sweep the Angels. And it's really big, fellas. I mean, this is why this team is so fun to watch, because it's just not one guy doing the job. It's like, oh, you're not doing well today? Don't worry, I got your back. A prime example today is Bo Bichette committing that error. Clearly is not good at all. And then Kevin Gausman, right? They get the double play afterwards. No one's hanging their head. No one's getting pissy with Bo. They pick each other up. They do a job. And what does Bo go out there and do? Hits a bomb his next at bat, right? It's just it's a next man up mentality with this team, and it's led at the forefront by the guy that no one expected to do this. George Springer. I mean, the dude's got a 9, like going into play today with a 900 OPS. It obviously dropped. He was 0 for 4 today, but my God. Fellas, he's having one of his best seasons of his career. Like, what are we talking about here? One of the highest walk rates of his career. He leads the team in homers. He's one of the most clutch guys, if not the most clutch guy on this roster. It's fun to watch, man. The summer of George is real. It just gives me 2021 vibes when he was just launching baseballs in Buffalo, and I'm like, God, just bring him here. And then he comes here and he's launching baseballs here. It's fun to watch, boys. I want to talk about him. I want to talk about him. Rob, I want to get your thoughts on Georgie, because that's something that needs to get discussed.
Yeah, I mean, we touched about it, touched on it in our last podcast. That was right after the Canada Day game when he exploded in that game. It's incredible. It's incredible how awesome he's been. I think a big reason as to why this offensive surge is happening. I know a lot of people are beating into the dirt that he's now become basically, more selective at the plate, cheating, and basically not like actually cheating, but cheating in the sense of selling out for the fastball, and that's why we see him go on one knee at times when he's swinging out of his shoes on the off-speed stuff. But he's hitting the ball really hard, and I think a big part of it is that he's sort of kind of been delegated to primarily a DH, now all of a sudden he's getting off his feet, which rightfully so, because as great as his hitting has been, he's having a career low year in the field, which we don't care, because as we mentioned so many times in the past, if you can, have elite defensive center fielder, even with Varsho gone, you still got that with Malestra, you can afford to take a hit on defense in the corner outfields if you're mashing. And George Springer's mashing. And guys, I thought about this yesterday. I want to run by you this parallel. I think that George Springer is having the season we were all hoping Anthony Santander would have. And Anthony Santander is having the season we all may have expected George Springer to have, right? So it all kind of evens out in the end if you think of it like that, and both guys are, they're getting a hefty paycheck. So ultimately you can, cross compare like, oh, you're getting more value out of this position. But yeah, isn't it crazy how baseball works? And Pricey, I know you remember this, but you remember back in 2017 how everyone was like, oh, Justin Smoke at first base. That's just a black hole in the lineup. And then he goes on and has one of these starting the All-Star game at first base for the AL. Like, it's just crazy how you write a guy off, you think they're no good, and all of a sudden they come out and have these incredible seasons. I think baseball is the one and only sport where that you can see that, and that's why it's special, man.
Yeah, it scares. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, just going off of that point quickly, is that baseball fans ride the roller coaster, man. They truly do. It's all, what have you done for me recently? Type of sport, right? If George Springer goes 0 for his next 30, people are going to change a little bit because that's just kind of how it works. That's how baseball works. Enjoy the right now. Smokey was a great backup, great glove first dude, and he had a great season. Everyone's like, oh my God, we love Justin Smoke. He's incredible. He's our favorite player. I want to go to the ballpark to watch him play. Like, it's just the way it is. Yeah. So, but yeah, oh boy, 2017 Smoke, the only thing that got us through that year, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Because of that, it does scare me on, where this season will end for George Springer.
Sure.
But again, we weren't anticipating getting this. So anything. Even
check his baseball savant page, man. This stuff is very real. This is not proof, man. His
I
baseball
know
savant page is ridiculous.
I know it's real, but like that doesn't make the other 2 years not real. You know what I mean? So, and he's still on the other side of 35. Like that, all of those things still exist. So,
Sure.
Obviously, I'm anticipating it to continue, but it does scare me a little bit. You mentioned career year. His career high in OPS plus is 150. This year, he has a 147. That would be second in his entire career if he finishes with a 147 OPS plus. And back to the 2021 win streak, 8 games was our longest win streak in 2021. And that team, unfortunately, it doesn't even. We shouldn't have even brought it up because that team was going to win the World Series if they made the playoffs. So that's my point.
2021, the only time in the Vlad Bow era that it's been fun to watch this team.
Yeah, exactly.
And make that change now because now there's 2 times it's been fun to watch this team right now.
Yeah, and here's the thing about the George Springers of the world and the Anthony Santanders, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but a perfect segue is it makes the trade deadline a lot harder.
Does it ever?
Yeah.
Does it ever? Because I don't know what they're going to do with Tony. Like you mentioned with what they're doing with George.
Well, here's the thing. We do have update on that. So since our last podcast, he was placed on the 60-day IL, which means the next available day he will be able to come back off the IL will be July 30th, one day before the July 31st trade deadline. That's the trade deadline day, right? 31st of July?
31st,
yeah.
Right. So basically at this point, it's like we talked yesterday, like maybe you can get him going a bit. Right now, you won't know how Anthony Santander will look after the trade deadline. I think at this point you're kind of forced to prepare accordingly. And we can talk about options and all that going forward, but I just wanted to put out there the injury update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
James, you want to get it going?
Yeah, we can start going trade talks because it's fun now, boys. It's that time of year. We're in July. The All-Star break's 2 series away. Which after that, it's like what a week.
Tracy, do you remember last year in the when was it, the Seattle series? And we were talking, it's great that the Jays got a series win, but it means diddly squat because they're just still like 7 games out of a playoff spot. Like it was cool in the moment, but like, now it matters.
Hey, we were. It's one of those. It's like the Chris Paul meme. Now he hits a 3 to cut the deficit to 40 something, right? And that's what it felt like that series win in Seattle. Like we were there, so the vibes were immaculate. But it's like in the long run, it's like great, yeah, sure. But this year, it's very different, boys. We ride the highs of every single win this team has given us, and that leads to this trade deadline where we knew they were going to be buyers going into it. When you guys talked last after games, you knew they were going to be buyers. Regardless of that, they're going to be above 500. They're going to be, and then the AL East ain't great. The American League's not great overall. So you knew they were going to buy. Well, since you guys talked last, they'd won 5 more games, and they're 3 games up at the top of the American League East. We know they're buyers, but that leaves the question: what do they need? Because do you trust a guy like Jeff Hoffman at the back end of the bullpen? Do you trust the bullpen in general? Your starters, they're all old as dirt. And who do you trust in like a game 1 situation, or if you have to pitch them in a game 7 situation, who do you trust? And it's like, I don't know who I trust there. Yep. And obviously offensively, do go out there and get a big bat, like something we all wanted in the offseason. We wanted Santander, you got it, great, but we needed another bat. That was what everybody was saying. You still would like to see that. So what are you going to do? Because you probably can't do them all. It ain't 15, fellas. We're not going to go out there and buy everything out there. They don't have a minor league system to do that. So what do you think is the biggest need, Cole?
So, okay, I want to start this conversation by having, I think, the most prevalent conversation that's going to be had at the deadline, and it is Anthony Santander. I want to, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would like to put it to rest that there's no conversation that exists of Anthony Santander not being an everyday player in this lineup for the second half and being a, game 1 starter in the postseason. It doesn't exist if he's healthy. And I feel like a lot of people on Blue Jays Twitter, and by all means, this doesn't include everybody who watches the sport as hardcore as we do, so maybe I'm just, seeing the wrong things from the wrong people, but it feels like the people are trying to have that conversation. That, like, Anthony Santander... Like, I actually had a friend message me and talk to me about the fact that he doesn't want to see Anthony Santander be an everyday player in the second half. And, like, to me, while that can be true in the sense of, like, you want to just make wishes, sure, but like that doesn't exist. It's just like George Springer last year, except there's even more reason to start Anthony Santander because he's not coming off of a career worst year. He's literally coming off of a career best year, and he's been injured this entire first half. So I want to make sure that us 3 agree that there is no conversation that exists of Santander not being an everyday player if healthy.
No.
Okay.
You don't give a guy that much term, that much money, and be
Exactly.
like, "Oh, we've played good for half a season.
Yeah.
Put your rear on the bench." Yeah, that's not going to work.
And for the people that want to have that conversation, go check his baseball reference, because I did, and look at his career splits. Look at his career splits for his entire career, and look at his 2024 splits. Both years, he was a significantly better player in the second half than he was in the first half. Yeah. So to even think that he might not come back and be the Anthony Santander that we got, that still exists. He put up 20 home runs last year in the second half, which was actually less than he had in the first half, but he had a better OPS in the second half, and that was in 64 games. By all means, this guy can come back at the start of August and still produce 15 home runs for us, and that matters in this lineup, and that's literally a piece that we are looking for at the trade deadline. So I wanted to start there. I think we all agree, the biggest need is starting pitching.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's no doubt about that. You watch guys like Gausman, and the velo is it's so versatile with him. And look, let's be honest, you have two pitches. I know they're both good, but when the velo is not there on the heater, it changes everything. And then come October, when it's chilly outside, that heater won't be moving as well, and that doesn't look good. And Jose Barrios, he's never felt like a big game playoff type pitcher. I mean, the few he's had,
except for the big game that he pitched 2 years ago.
Exactly. And oh boy, let's not talk about that. I mean, you look at the big outing that he had against the Yankees, just like you guys talked about, right? The game after you guys chatted, and he was doing great, and then just completely hit a wall and couldn't get it out.
Yeah.
And then thank God you won that ball game. Thank God you won that game. Chris Bassett, we all know, he's 162 games. That's him. Done. Cook. I mean, if you have the pitcher in playoff spot, maybe it's a long relief role or something like that for Chris Bassett.
Chris Bassett's a great number 4. Is what he is.
Yeah,
He's a great number 4.
Eric Lauer, I mean, my God. And Max Scherzer.
Yeah. So
every start, you're holding your breath.
I'll say I do trust Kevin Gausman in Game 1 of the postseason. I still hold true to that right now, regardless of regular season stats. Kevin Gausman, to me, has shown me enough as a Toronto Blue Jay that I trust him in Game 1. So I'm okay with the Jays searching for a solid number 2, like a number 1 on some teams, a number 2 on most teams, and maybe even a number 3 on a few teams. Like, I'm okay with them searching for that. So that's where I would start my focus with them.
Here's my counter. Counter to that. And like, Kevin Gausman, obviously, look, through the majority of his Blue Jays career, has been worthy of that, the number 1 in a playoff series. When he was, he was a down ballot Cy Young candidate his first year. He was literally a Cy Young finalist his second year. But the sample's growing, man. The sample's growing of the last year and a bit of him being a lot closer to serviceable number 3 than ace number 1. And obviously today he was good. I thought he actually his stuff was moving today. His velo was good despite pitching on short rest. I think that now that we have a day off on Thursday before his next start, give him an extra day. We have an All-Star break. I do think he could be reasonably fresh for the remainder of this month. However, his ERA plus is in like the low hundreds since the start of 2024. That's an extended sample, and this year there's no more the excuse of starting late in spring training. Like last year that was kind of the thing. It's like, oh, he started late, and that's why he had to basically chase his tail the whole season. This year it's kind of been a lot of the same, and we all heard the stories. Everyone thought he'd look good outside his spring training. We're going to talk about it on our over under review so far, that we all thought he was going to have a nice bounce back here. He hasn't quite had a bounce back to that degree. He's been fine, but ultimately, Game 1 of the ALDS is tomorrow, and you're facing the Yankees. They got Max Fried. You got Kevin Gausman. That's a major disadvantage for you. I'm sorry, it just is. You're in the ALCS Game 1. They're throwing out Tarek Skubal. You have Kevin Gausman. Like, no disrespect to Kevin or any of the guys on the Jays rotation, but you just need a guy who can counter that.
Yeah.
So to me, that's why I think that they should be a little more aggressive than you do when it comes to acquiring a top line starter.
So here's my counter to that. They're actually, in terms of number 1 guys that are available on the market this year that are planning like a number 1, that list is short.
It is.
And my problem with that is that because that list is short and it is a seller's market, that price is significantly increased. And because of that, I don't think the Jays have the bidding capital to be able to go get that ace. Here's the other thing. Ross Atkins spoke about it. Now, take what you want from the Ross Atkins press conferences, but he did specifically mention pitching depth. So even from Ross Atkins himself, it doesn't sound like his focus is on acquiring a potential ace in the playoffs. And that's why. And the other thing is, once you get past the number 1s that are performing like number 1s, There's a ton of guys. There's a ton of guys who could slot in at number 2 or number 3 in the postseason. And that's where I think the Jays will end up at. I also think, because from everybody, the initial thoughts like 1 starting pitcher, 1 bat, 1 reliever. I have a feeling the Jays are going to acquire 2 starting pitchers.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Can I give you, since I think we're here, can I give you a couple names that, and you let me know, like, would you consider them like your number ones in a postseason rotation?
I think I know where you're going with maybe one of them.
The one that Rob mentioned on the podcast last time.
So obviously
100%.
one is Evaldi. One is Evaldi. I went pretty deep into him. I think that's a guy that obviously he's your number one. But there are 2 other guys. And these are 2 different types of signings. So Nathan Evaldi, the what you really looked at with him and why you found attractive about the Blue Jays is that they could pay the next couple of years. And that he's the guy that, you could take the Rangers payroll, you could slash it out if you take on his contract. And obviously he's an older guy. But I have 2 guys that are younger pitchers that would probably require you to pay a little bit more prospect capital because they're not making as much. But I think there were 2 guys that could simply slide in. So number one, I got Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers, having an awesome season this year. He is under contract for this year and next year. There's a club option for $8 million, which, considering the season he's having, that's an absolute steal. So that obviously would make the price only go up even further. Right. Because you can get him at such a cost-controlled price. Having a great year. Take a look at his numbers. He would be your number one in my opinion. And then number 2 in Miami, Edward Cabrera. He's another guy. He's a guy during his arbitration years. So that's another guy that's obviously cost-controlled, cheap. So you got to give up a pretty penny to acquire him. But another guy who's, his baseball savant looks pretty good and a guy that could slide in. And here's the thing about these guys, what makes them attractive and why the Blue Jays should be more aggressive, in my opinion, is because Chris Bassitt's a free agent next year. Max Scherzer is a free agent next year. Eric Lauer, I think there's an option in there because he signed a minor league deal. I don't know. But basically my point is that you need a guy in 2026. You're going to have to get him at the deadline, in the offseason. So why not be a little aggressive and get there a little earlier? Yeah. So those are the 2 guys that I had that I was really interested in personally.
My only thing with the Brewers is right now they're in a wild card spot. The Rangers are 3.5 back, and with their rotation being the best in baseball, I also think that both Texas and Milwaukee will be off the sellers market come July 31st. That's my prediction, and I've kind of stayed away from Texas and Milwaukee in terms of guys that I was looking at. James,
what about a guy in Kansas City, Chris Bubich?
Yeah, so
I think he may only have 1 year left on his thing, or maybe he's a free agent at the end of this year. One of the 2.
So he's been great. He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, for 2 years now.
But I don't know if I trust him as my number one.
Well, no, I mean ERA plus of 175.
He's been awesome this season.
He will have earned the number 1 start.
Correct.
I'm just saying, I don't know if I trust it. That's all. And it's a pitcher friendly ballpark, which I know it accounts for that. But come over to the AL East for the second half and also pitch in an AL East ballpark in the wild card games. I don't know.
That Nathan Evaldi one though, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Watching that guy pitch in the playoffs is it's night and day difference from anything you see in a $162.
Well, if Texas is selling, Jacob deGrom's on the market.
Yeah, it's another one you're gonna have to pay.
They might have to be a little bit more aggressive for that one.
Yeah. No, but I mean, sorry. I think that makes the Evaldi thing to us more realistic because other teams will go after DeGrom.
Yeah,
that's what I
possible.
think.
Yeah, I mean, there's more options. It sounds like than we initially thought.
So here's the thing about Texas is that the Texas is still running a pretty high payroll, and obviously because they're running a high payroll, they expect to win. So I don't know that they would trade 2 guys who are having good seasons and they're controllable beyond this year unless they're really blown away by the price. Which unfortunately, I don't think the Blue Jays are going to blow anyone away by the price. I think if they're going to get somebody, it's going to be because they're willing to take on money back. And they're willing to sell someone on their B-level prospects. I don't think there's a guy out there. Maybe there is. I could be wrong. That warrants giving up their best prospects. We talked about Savage and Namala. To me, I'm not giving up either of them for Nathan Evaldi.
No.
So now I want to have the potential number 1 conversation, but guys that aren't playing at all at that level, who are also probably going to be on the market this year. Sandy is obviously the top of the market for starting pitchers that are probably going to be sought after despite the year that he's having.
Which is really bad, by the way. He's having an awful season.
Yeah. Is that can Pete Walker pull off, funny enough, a Taiwan Walker? A Taiwan Walker or a Jose Barrios 2.0 and get them to have an elite second half where you can trust them come a postseason start.
That'd be one that you kind of take a flyer on. You know, it's not a guy that you'd come in and be like, hey, we hope that you turn him around and then he's our front of our game one starter. Like, no. That's not one of those cases.
Okay, so I'm asking you, if you have the option for the exact same price of Sandy Alcantara or Nathan Eovaldi, who do you want?
What's Sandy's contract situation? Is he?
Well, obviously, you have Eovaldi. You rather have the guy you rather have the Burt Man, the guy who's having an awesome season. Like, what kind of a question is that, Prof?
What's Sandy's
I think it's a valid
contract?
question. What do you any given day, Sandy Alcantara's stuff is better than Nathan Eovaldi's. Second, he's like 9 years younger than him or 8 years younger than him. I don't know if it's that much, but he's
29. So
yeah, he's 29.
Alcantara's, yeah.
Yeah, so he's 6 years younger than Nathan Eovaldi, and also he'd be under more team control, and he's not as expensive.
So
he's a free agent in 2027.
The first point is not true.
Okay.
He doesn't have better stuff. The baseball savant is like the totally opposite. Nathan Eovaldi's is like
this year
bleeding red, and the other one's blue. So
this year, yes.
Yeah, no. Obviously, if you can get someone for the same price, you'd rather the guy with a potential to have a 5-win season, not the guy who might get DFA'd if not for past success. Like that's what we're talking about here. But I get what you're saying.
Literally 2 years ago had Nate War. Like that's what
yeah. And I think that's the reason why he's not been DFA'd, because that's how awful of a season he's having. Like, that is why he's still here. That's why he's a trade candidate and not a TFA candidate. And also, Jose Barrios, Taijuan Walker, like those were two completely different comps, Prof. Like Taijuan Walker was a rental who you got for like a minor league lottery ticket. You have to give up your best prospect for Barrios.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what your point is.
I don't
know what your point is. They both had elite second halves. I don't know what your point is.
My point is that those are two completely different shopping aisles. So obviously the Taijuan Walker shopping aisle, which is the depth starter that you don't have to give up anything for, really just sort of quantity of depth, like that you can get. Like those will be available.
Yeah.
My point is that you should get the Jose Barrios trade from 2021. You should give up some fine meat and cheese, like Mike Wilner likes to say, and get a top of the line starter.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at.
I agree. That would be great. I don't know if that's gonna be.
What I'm saying is that those are not like Taijuan Walker and Jose Barrios are two different things. They're two different tiers of guys that you're going after.
Right, but
maybe.
But it had nothing to do with going after them. I said, can he pull off a Jose Barrios or Taijuan Walker 2.0? And I was talking about Pete Walker, and then I said for Sandy Alcantara, which means turn a pitcher who is performing under his expectations into a pitcher performing above his expectations in the second half. The comp had nothing to do about who you're going to acquire. It was regarding turning a pitcher into a better pitcher for the second half.
Yeah. I still think you need like more certainty. Like to me, I like the idea of Sandy. Like to me, Sandy would have been a perfect pickup for the 2023 Jays, where you have like a legitimate ace, you have like your top front of your rotation, and then like to basically you could screw up your screw over your back end in terms of like fixing that up and having it for the year after. Whereas this year, I think you need sort of that front line help. I think you need to recreate the Jose Barrios trade.
Yeah, a guy like Nate Eovaldi, man. Again, watching those playoffs, sign me up. 10 out of 10 all the time, boys. Now, so I think we can move on from the rotation and go to the bullpen, because it's such a weird position this Jays team is in. Like they have, I think, a decent amount of depth. I mean, we're seeing it now with all these guys coming into their roles. Like you mentioned earlier, Rob, Ryan Burr shows up today and looks great. And he's yelling at the camera. And it's like it's his first outing of the freaking year and he's losing it. And I'm loving it. Lazaro Estrada, okay, it's that move. But without Jimmy Garcia, Swanson was a no-go. And it was just a complete bombshell. And with Jeff Hoffman, the bad stretches seem to be in the rearview mirror. Like he's still allowing some hard contact like today, but he's getting the job done. He's got 22 saves now on the season. The whip is still quite low, so I'm not, too worried about him. Yep. But the back end of the bullpen is something that you can try and address here. I mean, we talked about one guy in the offseason that I really wanted them to go after, and that was Ryan Helsley. He's a rental guy, back end of the bullpen. I don't know where the Cardinals at. They're 6 above. They're tied for a wild card spot, so maybe they won't be selling off anytime soon. But a guy like Ryan Helsley, if come available, boy, oh boy, sign me up. Do what you got to do, because adding that with Jeff Hoffman at the end, you don't have to work guys through the ground then, because that's what we've noticed so much is that we're watching Brendan Little throw 30 odd pitches an inning, and we're like, boy, this is like watching paint dry. And you're watching Jeff Hoffman have to go out there for 2 inning saves. We talked like earlier on in the year, and by like month 2, he's already dead, and it's just that cannot continue. So I think they need to add at least 1 or 2 bullpen arms. Kind of give me the Jason Grilli, Joaquin Benoit type situation back in 2016. You need something like that in this pen for sure.
Do we think the pen is a higher priority than a depth power bat?
Oh, depth. What's a name? What's a depth power bat type name though?
Okay, so I got a name for both the bullpen and a depth power bat, and the bullpen is a guy that we've been attached to for years, but finally he's finally touched 30. He's finally losing some team control, and that team's 100% going to be selling at the deadline, and it's David Bednar. Again, still performing at an elite level. A guy that is perfect for the back end of your bullpen. A guy that's not, their everyday closer, but a guy who is their backup closer. Kind of just like Jeff Hoffman was in Philadelphia. Yeah. He fits the exact same bill. So now we have 2 guys who have been in the role before, who then can take the role over and roll through the postseason. He's a free agent in 2027. He's 30 years old. And yeah, the Pirates are 100% selling. So I think finally it might be the time where I think Bednar gets moved for sure. I think now might be the time where the Jays can actually be the ones to acquire him.
So who's
he'd be nice. Oh, sorry. We gotta get my take. We want to get you on the bat first. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the depth power bat is Jesus Sanchez from the Miami Marlins, a guy that mashes righties. And I this is actually gonna be a larger point, but I might as well get it out on the table right now. So Ross Atkins said in his press conference that we should probably be acquiring a righty bat, which even I, on initial reaction, talked to Rob on the podcast on Wednesday, and I said that doesn't feel like what we need. It feels like we probably need a lefty power bat. And then I went and fact checked it, and I was right. We are better against lefties than we are against righties, which is why we would need a lefty power bat to help this lineup out, because Anthony Santander, if he does come back, and that's the guy that people are pointing to help the righty situation or the lefty situation, because he mashes against lefties. So it's like, not only do we not need it, but the guy that you're pointing to is probably going to help us not need it even more. So Jesus Sanchez bats from the left side, and he mashes. He has I had it up here. He has an 800 OPS in his career against right-handed pitchers. So, and see, the problem that I'm having, and this is where the larger point comes into play, is who is the odd man out? And I can't believe I'm going to say this, because I don't think I necessarily said it on a previous podcast. In fact, I might have contradicted myself. I might be contradicting myself right now. But unfortunately, it is Ernie Clement. Because here's your lineup. Alejandro Kirk's your starting catcher, guaranteed. Vladdy's your starting first baseman, guaranteed. Now, here's where people might have a debate. Andres Gimenez at second base, debate that all you want. Bo Bichette at short. Ernie Clement at third base as of right now. Santander in left, Varsho in center, and Barger in right, and then Springer, obviously, DH. And we all agreed Springer at DH is your best lineup. You do not want him in the outfield. You're going to have to deal with, I don't know what you're going to do with Santander. Maybe he DHs, but whatever. They're basically the same player in the outfield at this point. So you don't really have room in the outfield. So maybe me grabbing an outfielder is not even the right person. Maybe it is Suarez from the Diamondbacks, but I think he's going to be the most sought after bat. But it is Ernie Clement, and if you want to talk about how well he's doing this year, we know that it's defense first, and unfortunately, Andres Gimenez got paid. Dalton Varsho got paid. Like, Ernie Clement's 29 years old, having a career year, and it's not really because of his offense. He is carrying a 105 OPS plus. But again, you need a guy who's going to put the ball over the fence in the postseason, and a 105 OPS plus isn't going to cut it when you have, I think he has 4 home runs in the year. That's not going to cut it in October. So, unfortunately, despite him being quite literally our first or second best player in terms of WAR this year, he is the odd man out, and it's simply because, you expect, one, laws of averages to apply,
Sure.
and he hasn't been paid. You're not paying him, so you're not going to pay a guy to sit on your bench even if they're not offense first. There's just a larger sample of elite level defense from Andres Gimenez to keep him at second base in the postseason. Not to mention he has actual postseason experience. So yeah, I think third base, or I actually don't think the outfield's actually open. Like, that's my problem, is I don't think it's open. So I think third base is your best bet, and Ernie Clement slots in, late innings in October.
Does Ernie Clement not give you the Chris Bassett on the offensive side, where it's like, hey, he'll be great during the regular season, he'll give you 160,
Right.
He'll look great, but come playoff time, it's not really a guy you want out there.
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I get from that.
To me, like when Ross Atkins mentioned that they're going to go after a righty bat, for me, like the thing that came to my mind was that that's not how we're going to like add an everyday player in the lineup. It's more so, can we replace Davis Schneider and to get a better version of Davis Schneider off the bench?
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that's the vibe I got. Where is that? Because honestly, like to me, you'd have to get a really ceiling-changing offensive player to make you want to like take out Ernie Clement from the lineup, in my opinion, at this range. Like Jesus Sanchez is fine.
But yeah, he is just fine. He also has a 105 OPS plus this year. And I don't know if he's going to be comfortable being a non-everyday player. So like that's the other part, because I was more thinking like that'd be a great guy to have off your bench, go against righties or go against go against righties. But I think Davis Schneider is our perfect fit against a perfect matchup against lefties off the bench. So I don't think he needs to be replaced.
But Ernie mashes lefties though.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Ernie mashes lefties as well.
So then basically the
answer is
then at that point.
Yeah.
Then at that point, you're looking for an outfielder to replace Nathan Lucas in left field. You're looking for a guy who can offer you more power. Yeah, because obviously to me, I think that the bat they should go after, because I think, like I said in our last podcast, I think the lineup is pretty full. I think the only opening
is quite full,
Davis Schneider / Nathan Lucas. I think that's like that left field spot. You get a righty that kind of supplants Davis Schneider. If you get a lefty that kind of supplants Nathan Lucas. To me, like that's how I would go about it. I'm not sure, like you mentioned, like you do the exercise, it gets funky real quick.
Right.
Obviously, the infield is a real funk, because obviously you have like 2 third basemen, you have 2 guys who can play second base. Your shortstop and your first baseman are not going anywhere; they're going to be there. Yeah. I think to me, it's more of a depth guy. I think to me, it's more of a not him exactly, he's having a really bad year, but like a Mark Hanna. I think that's the type of aisle you're shopping in, rather than like a legitimate guy who's going to go in there and be your 2-hitter and being one of the LDS.
I'm with you. I'm with you, but I do think, and the reason why I did actually end up grabbing an outfield, I don't know why I didn't mention this, but it's because you would move Barger to third base. Obviously, like that would be the scenario. Is that I'm replacing Clement? Like that's my point. Is I am trying to acquire a bat that plays every day and can hit for more power than Ernie Clement, and then you have to, and it has to be an outfielder or a third baseman, because you got to get him either into the corner outfield or Barger to, if you play in the infield. So like that's my I think that the only way you go out, I mean, like I don't know how much a guy off the bench is going to help you in October. Like that's my problem. Is like I need someone that's going to help me.
You want somebody who's going to make an impact, all right? You want to have somebody who's going to make an impact each and every day in the 162 and come October. And you mentioned Gino. Oh boy. 28 bombs so far this year. Smack him right in the middle of the lineup, stick him at third every day. Barger can go play right and use this absolute hose of an arm.
But then where does George Springer and Anthony Santander play? You can DH one of them. What do you do with the other?
No. He replaces Clement.
Why do you think George is playing left field right now?
You could play George in left.
Right, George is playing left a lot more recently, where he hasn't played his entire career. I mean, there's probably a reason for that. I think you DH and left field kind of flipped up those 2 guys around in left. I think that's what ends up happening.
Yeah. You could also kind of theoretically you could DH Suarez and play Clement at third and move.
There's options.
To right.
There would be options.
Well, but that takes Santander or Springer out. No, you have to. That's what I'm saying. The answer is Clement. Like, unfortunately, like it's an outfielder who moves Barger to the infielder.
But also, there's going to be
Barger to third.
I mean, come playoffs, if we're talking strictly playoffs, then yes. But if I'm talking the rest of the way, I mean, Ernie can play everywhere, right?
Here's my overarching point, though. My overarching point is that ultimately, let's be honest, we're probably not going to have enough to get like a legitimate ceiling-raising everyday bat and a top-line starter. And to me, I think the top-line starter is much more required.
I will say, though, I will say they probably could, because this prospect pool that they have, man, these arms are legit. What they got down there in the minor leagues, they are dominating. Not only Trey Savage, because that's what everyone's talking about. People cannot go like Cal Steven can't go unnoticed. The guy has an ERA of $1.40, in Vancouver. I mean, obviously in the same draft class as Savage, and he shouldn't be there. He should be in AA, right? That Warren Watts Brown guy that I love talking about, he's in AA, dominating. And these guys are just very young arms. And I think it was Cole. We mentioned it, 2 or 3 pods before this one, about what do teams love? They love arms. And that's what the Jays have a surplus of in the minor leagues. So it depends how aggressive they want to be. If they want to be aggressive, and they want to go after Gino, and they want to go after Paul Screams or something, I don't know. Like, let's get freaky with it. They have pieces to play around with. And it all depends on how much they want to dig into that system.
You also have to keep in mind, though, Pricey, and I mentioned this to Cole in the last podcast, that since the third wild card, the trade deadline has always been a seller's market. It's always been, because now all of a sudden you have more teams contending and less teams selling. Yeah. So that's why the first 2 years of the Jays were in the playoffs, we were all disappointed, like, oh, they didn't do enough at the deadline. And last year, we were all very happy at the deadline because, we got more than we expected for these guys. And it turns out we didn't get all as much as we would have wanted for Kikuchi. Right. We got like next to nothing at this point. But regardless, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And obviously, we'll have to see how years go by, how the trade deadline shapes out. But ultimately, my experience so far through this new format is that if you're a team that's buying, prepare to be underwhelmed.
Right. 100%. And I went through it. There's only 7 teams that are guaranteed to be sellers at the deadline as of right now.
And like as in 3 weeks, there'll be more. So like that will help. But like, I think that's the point. Like everyone has a shot. Right. You know what I mean? Like the Angels are not good. They're simply not a good team. They're 3 under 500 now after us. But like they could win, 16 of their next 20 or 16 of their next 25 and be right there in it. Like at this point, if you're right around the area of 500, you have a shot to make the third wild card under this format. Like it's hard to be completely out of it in early July. Now, later July, it becomes a little bit more clear, but ultimately, I think the main point, it's not great for video and audio mediums like this, but ultimately the point is like we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see how these next few weeks play out.
It's true though.
Yeah,
it is very true.
Yeah, and I think, but here's my point in to the whole sellers thing, is I think you got to get ahead of it. I think the Jays should be starting these conversations right now with the teams that they know are going to be selling, because I think that'll help. But if you go through the sellers...
I disagree, but I'll finish your point. I'll counter after. I actually disagree with that, but go ahead.
I could see that the team selling might not want to do it, but I think that it could help us. But the sellers would be Oakland, Chicago, Kansas City, Miami, Pittsburgh, Washington, Colorado. And a lot of those teams, after going through them, don't have a lot of options, at least like the traditional options, like the free agents.
Well, that's why they're so bad, right? That would make sense.
Yeah.
No, but they don't have even the traditional options of like rentals. Like that's my problem. They don't have guys that are, the guys who you sell at the deadline to get off payroll. They don't. A lot of these teams have a lot of guys that are under team control through 2027, and that makes the sellers market even shorter, because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, Rob's right. We'll have more on July 31st, but like Oakland, Chicago, and Colorado are basically just washes. They're so bad that like we don't even have the option to go to them and try to get something from them. Like that's the other problem. Like, so anyways,
and that makes sense because like, they don't have a lot of tradable contracts because they're typically the teams that don't spend a lot of money, right? So that's why they're not. That's why they're sellers in first week of July. So that kind of makes sense.
So why do you disagree that we wouldn't be able to start the conversation early and it help us?
So the simple reason is that, like you mentioned, the only teams you have to trade with are the teams that don't have diddly squat. So ultimately, if you're going to get a legitimate ceiling raiser from a guy, let's say you're Cleveland. Cleveland's not the best example because they're sort of trending in that tier of like teams that should absolutely be selling. But let's say you want to get Emmanuel Clase from Cleveland, and Cleveland's a team that we theoretically still have a chance. We're only how X amount of games out of the playoff spot. You want Emmanuel Clase? Okay, well at that point, for you to get Emmanuel Clase from us, you have to convince us that your package is good enough for us to forfeit the season, for us to say that we're sellers, we're done.
Right.
In 3 weeks,
there's
no decision to be made.
But I said focus on the guaranteed sellers. And I meant like why can't you start the David Bednar conversation today? Pittsburgh's out of it. They're sellers. That guy's a ceiling raiser for us.
You can kick the tires. I understand. Like, obviously, and I think that's what the Jays are doing. I think they are actively contacting teams and sniffing out the prices. But ultimately, I don't think that the Jays should be aggressive in making a deal today or tomorrow. I think that their best bet at the right price is right until the deadline. Like that's
Look,
always how it's been. Like
I don't think we'll hear anything trade related until after the All-Star break. I think you'll probably hear it in the final 2 weeks. A team that I'm going to keep an eye on is Baltimore.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
If Felix Bautista comes available.
I know, but within your division, I stayed away from it within the division. That's my
Yeah,
problem.
but it's Baltimore. I'm sorry, but it's not the Yankees. It's not the Rays. It's not the Yankees or the Red Sox, right? It's Baltimore. And for me, I don't know. I don't see it being that big of a deal. And God, give me Felix Bautista, boys.
Yeah.
45 punchies, a ton of swing and miss, massive human being. Oh, yeah.
We'll have a lot of fun with the trade deadline, but ultimately, guys, I think we're 50 minutes in. I think we should quickly rip through our preseason over-unders and
Go for it.
see where we're standing now. Just over what are we now? What 55% of the way through the year? Just over
90
halfway.
games in.
So
We're 90 games in.
yeah, 90 games in. Round number, perfect. Let's see where we at. Let's see how wrong we all
Oh
were.
boy, here we go.
Actually, let's see how wrong Professor was.
Yeah, I was wrong. So I also didn't update the like on pace numbers from Wednesday because in 5 games the on pace hasn't really changed. So that's why I didn't bother. So I won't.
This is as of 85 games in. As of 85 games in the pace.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, that's fine.
So the biggest one was the Vlad war, which is very much still up in the air in terms of will he finish, whether or not who will be right. But I and Rob had the over. Sorry, me and James had the over. Rob had the under. And right now he is on pace to finish 0.25 under the projected line, which was 5.25. So by all means, we haven't gotten the 160 OPS plus from Vlad yet. So it's very realistic that he will surpass the line that we said at the beginning of the season, which would help my numbers a lot. Scherzer inning pitch is a wash, obviously. I think he could make every start and go 7 innings in every start in the second half.
What was the over-under?
It was 109.5.
Okay.
He's as of 85 games, so I didn't include the 4 innings he pitched the other day. He was on pace for 26 innings.
We all said under, right?
No, I said over. I said over.
Did I say under?
Yeah, you said under.
Yeah, thank God.
You and I both had the under. You and I both had the under on that one.
Gosman ERA plus at 118.5. Right now he's at 100. Today hasn't been updated. I checked again on Baseball Reference earlier in the podcast. It hasn't been updated.
Probably a slight bump. Probably be like 103, 103, yeah.
Right, probably a slight bump because Rogers Center is a hitter-friendly ballpark this year, or
and
more hitter-friendly than what it has.
He did pitch pretty well today.
And what did we say?
We all said over, and right now we'd all be wrong.
Yeah. I don't feel the best about that one. I'll say that.
No.
I don't feel the best about that one.
I don't feel the best for that one either. Santander home runs we said at 32.5. I think if held,
I
think it's dead, but I think like if we go if what he would have done like on pace, like if we go at the end of the year, like games played with home runs actually hit, I'm sure.
Hey man, that's factored in though. That's factored in. We were wrong. I was wrong about that one too.
I think I said under. I believe.
Yeah. Prof, when you read it out, make sure you tell us what each of us said, so that we can get that off the bat.
Yeah. No, Rob had it right. Me and Rob said over. James had the under. Springer at bats 514.5. I had the under. You and James had the over. He is going to surpass that, assuming he doesn't get injured, because he's on pace for 600. The pen ranking 18.5. Whether we thought it was going to be better or worse than that. James and Rob had it being better than that. I had it being worse than that. Currently, they rank 12th, so they are better than that. And again, that
one's looking pretty good.
Right, that one's looking pretty good. We're going to acquire another arm, so by all means, it'll probably finish above 18.5.
Yeah.
Pretty low bar.
Bo Bichette hits 176.5. He's on pace for 190. Me and James had the over. One of the few I had right. And Rob had the under. So James and I should be good again, assuming Bo stays healthy. Surprise OPS guy.
If Bo wants to take an extra day off every now and then, I'm totally.
I bet you are, man.
350 at bats with a 110 OPS plus.
Sorry, who was this?
This was a surprise OPS.
Bat.
Yeah, mystery bat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mystery bat. If somebody was going to get 350 at bats with a 110 OPS plus, we all said, Rob and I said yes to Rodin at the beginning of the year. James said no to anybody.
It's gonna be Addison Barger.
When we checked in at the quarter mark after 40 games, it didn't look like Barger was going to get it. Now it does. He is over a 110 OPS plus, and he's going to have more than 350 at bats at the end of the season, assuming he plays every day.
There we go.
So Rob and I will be right if that happens. Jays wins 85.5. Obviously, this is still very much up in the air, but we are on pace for 90, 91 wins.
That's crazy.
Rob and I took the under. James took the over. James is getting that one. And then the one
Looks
I
like
forgot.
Pretty good, boys.
The one I forgot on the other podcast was All-Stars, which the line was set at 3.5.
Wow.
And
Interesting.
you guys both had under, under, and I had the over. And as we just heard out today, actually, the Jays, as of right now, will only have 2 All-Stars going. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you guys whether or not we want to include injury replacements.
That counts.
Yeah,
Okay.
That counts.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's still live, but ultimately, I think it's still live, but we're not going to get 4. I think Springer might get in off an injury replacement. I don't see anybody else.
No, nobody else should, to be honest.
Yeah.
Barger might be able to.
Maybe. It'll be tough, though.
It'll be tough. So that totals up to James in the lead with 7 out of 10.
That's not bad.
That's very good. It's very
good. Rob at 6 out of 10. And myself at 2 out of 10.
All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up with that. That's going to be the end of the pod. There we go.
I'll probably end up getting to like 4, but yeah, not good, not great. So yeah, that
right.
pretty good.
And ironically, you are the betting man out of all 3 of us.
Yeah, and I didn't bet on any of that. So actually, no, I did bet on Jays wins. I assume I bet on Jays wins, which I was happy to be wrong. I think I bet on Santander home runs, and I'm going to be happy to be wrong. I'm pretty sure I bet on Vladdy home runs. I'll be happy to be wrong. But yeah,
you took all the unders.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
I only
for
my teams. I only happy hedge.
Of course.
That's good. That's good.
All right, boys. Well, hey, great pod, positive pod, right from the top to the bottom. It's nothing but good vibes up north of the border. It's beautiful. It's weather's nice. July. It's summertime now. Jays are bumping. Rogers Center is bumping. Bunch of sellouts. I think like the whole Yankee series and all 3 on the weekend against the Angels, all sellouts. It's a vibe.
How was Saturday, by the way? It's been a while since I've gone down to the yard. How were the vibes?
It gave me goosebump vibes. It gave me if the ballpark was full in 21 vibes. Ooh. It was a lot of fun.
Hold on. I do have one more thing. I got to take a shot at Seattle. Your superstar, Julio Rodriguez, has no business being in the All-Star game this year.
George Springer was snubbed.
George Springer was 100% snubbed, but I do think there was other candidates that were better than Springer that were snubbed. So, but yes, Julio Rodriguez has an OPS that starts with
694.
Kick rocks, man. Kick rocks.
Gross. Anyways, boys, we got 2 All-Stars. We're at the top of the division, and as per usual, the Mariners are chasing the Astros, as they always do. All right, fellas, that's going to do it for this one. For myself, James Price, Robin Zillamon, Cole Wiston, we thank you guys so much for listening, watching, all that great stuff. And for AC and Sammy behind the scenes, thanks, boys. And we'll talk to you soon. Go Jays.
Go Jays.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Blue Jays Center on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.